It's about that time.
Stoned on Sports.
How's it going, everybody? You're tuned in to Stoned on Sports Fantasy Football. My name is Matt. Got the co-host Kyle here with me today, and it's Thursday. That means we're talking starts and sits. We're also answering your questions live here on air. Any questions you may have, start, sit, waiver wire pickups, trades, whatever you need. We are on the march to 100 subscribers, so if you like what you see and you enjoy the content, drop a like, drop a subscribe. It would mean the world to us, and it doesn't cost you a thing. Kyle, how you doing? Are you excited for this game tonight? Yeah.
No, absolutely not. Saints, Broncos, no thanks. Gross. Two rookie quarterbacks that aren't very good. No, not very exciting. I am excited for that Lions-Vikings game, though, come Sunday. That's going to be what the only thing I do between 1 and 4.
Yeah, that's going to be a good game. I think the Lions will end up beating the Vikings, so it'll still be a fun watch, though.
Speaking of that, Dubo says, I might start 4 Vikings against you in fantasy, Kyle. Confidence is high. I repeat, confidence is high. And that's great. It's good. I love that we get to talk smack with one another here. But if that goes poorly for you, or for those 4 players, I mean, that's a guaranteed win for me.
Yeah, I do like the American Pie reference in there, though.
Yes.
Got Loud Boy with us here, too. What's going on, brother? Appreciate you coming through.
So let's get started. We
yes.
We got starts and sits today. We got 5 guys we really like for you to start this week. 5 guys you should probably think about benching, even though, some of them might be, auto plays that you just might have to go with because of bye or injuries or whatnot. First one we'll get started with is, hey, Kelsey, thanks for joining us today. I see she's in the chat. But the first one we're going to get started with today is a wide receiver, Zay Flowers with the Ravens. And the last 2 weeks have been pretty good bounce back weeks for him, right? Because in weeks 3 and 4, he had just a few catches. I think 4 catches for 30 yards total. But if you take those 2 weeks out, that he did horrible because the Ravens went pretty heavy run those 2 games. He has been averaging just over 7 catches and 94 yards a game. Pretty good. He's got back-to-back 100-yard games, though unfortunately he hasn't found the end zone yet, but he did catch all of his 9 targets last week, and he has 21 targets in his past 2 games, so the volume is there for him right now, and he was one of 10 wide receivers in week 6 to score 20-plus PPR points. He had a wide receiver 6 finish, and he's wide receiver 18 on the year in PPR formats. Among the 144 qualified receivers in the NFL, Flowers ranks, he's got some pretty nice stuff here. 11th in receiving yards with just over 400. He's tied for 30th in yards per reception, 26th in EPA, 20th in YAC over expected, 20th, tied for 20th actually in average separation, 4.2 yards. That's pretty damn good. Among the 48 wide receivers with at least 30 or more targets, he has the 7th best contested catch rate at 62.5%, and he was a top 12 receiver in that regard last year, too. He's also tied for 2nd in missed forced tackles with 9. Anytime you can get a wide receiver that's got that many through the first 5-6 weeks of the season, that's pretty good. The matchup this week is against the Buccaneers. Their defense has been up and down through the year, but they have given up 100-plus yard games to Amon-Ra St. Brown, Drake London, and Darnell Mooney. And they have been fortunate enough to face a couple teams without their best receivers. That would have been the Eagles in week 4 and the Saints in week 6. But Tampa Bay gives up the 6th most points, fantasy points, to wide receivers. I think this game could be some high scoring potential there. And with Flowers coming up that career high 134 yards he had last week, I think you just have to ride the hot streak in a favorable matchup.
Yeah, agree wholeheartedly. We do want to point out, though, take advantage of these matchups while you can, because his upcoming schedule isn't looking so hot. But we'll worry about next week. We're worried about this week. We got Chris out here in the chat. He's got 2 spots open, has Brian Thomas, Juju, Chase Brown, and Wandale. Which 2 are we leaning towards? That's a good one. I like Juju. He showed up on the injury report today with a hamstring injury.
It's not good. Not good.
Yes, it's a bit concerning. Chase Brown is he's earning more touches there in Cincinnati. Wan'Dale Robinson, the targets are great. The target share is fantastic, but he's got an ADOT of like 4 yards.
Yeah.
So I mean, he's giving you 6 for 40, which in a PPR, you give me 10 points. I'm a happy camper. But still, you'd like to see him work a little bit further down the field. You'd like to see him find the end zone. Brian Thomas has been really damn good this year, especially for a rookie. He's been one of the lone bright spots on that Jaguars team. He's the wide receiver 13 in PPR. For me, I think Brian Thomas, and then it's going to come down to either Juju or Chase Brown for me. I think if Juju goes, I'm going to roll with him. If, you're feeling iffy about that, I think I'd go with Brown. Kyle, what do you think?
Exactly the same. And part of me wants to go with Wan'Dale just because of the volume he's been seeing. Philadelphia is like top 6 in most points allowed to wide receivers this year. So I don't hate it, but I like your option better.
Sweet. Whoops.
He's leaning towards BTJ and Chase Brown, full PPR. Good stuff. Heck yeah. All right. Pay attention, Kyle.
Please.
The Washington Commanders is a pretty easy opponent if you're a fantasy quarterback. They've given up over 1,400 receiving yards and 12 passing touchdowns to quarterbacks through 6 games. Enter Panthers quarterback Andy Dalton, who should be playing from behind, which is a recipe for fantasy success. What do you think, Matt?
Well, I mean, a lot of good things happen from behind, too. It's important to keep that in mind. Whoops, let me get back up here in my Buttle by notes to where he is. So Andy Dalton, he's averaging 224 passing yards, 2 touchdowns and a pick in 4 starts, completing, we'll call it 2/3 of his passes. That Commies pass defense, though, is allowing the 5th most points per game to quarterbacks, the 6th highest completion percentage, the 2nd highest yards per attempt, the 2nd most touchdowns, the 2nd highest QB rating, and they have just 1 interception all season long. They have allowed over 275 passing yards in half their games as well. Their average game that they're giving up, 232 and 2 touchdowns. And it's kind of funny how closely that aligns with Andy Dalton's average game. Pass rush isn't too bad. They're top 10 in sacks. Among quarterbacks with 150 or more dropbacks, Andy Dalton's 26% pressure rate is the 3rd lowest, and his 2.53 seconds time to throw is the 2nd lowest. He's also tied for 5th in red zone attempts. The Commies are 9th in red zone points allowed per game.
Perfect.
And he finally found somebody he really clicks with, Deontay Johnson. He's been a wide receiver 6 since Andy Dalton took over. It's important to note, though, that he's not practiced yet this week. He's dealing with an injury. And you look at this game, is the game with the highest total. You've got the Panthers with an implied team total of, I think, 21.75 points. I think there is a really good chance that this game goes over the total. Right now, last I saw, it was at 51.5 points, highest on the board. This week, I think Andy Dalton is a top 10 option at the position. I think there's some upside there as well. Now, the health and availability of Deontay Johnson is going to play into that. He's really laser focused on him. And if Johnson is out, that could throw a wrench into things. And I'll even throw in Chuba Hubbard. I think he's a really good start. Dalton, Deontay Johnson, and Chuba Hubbard. I'm going to run all 3 of their asses out there this week. I know this segment is just more focused on Andy Dalton, but I think this is a fantastic matchup. You've got 2 defenses, quite frankly, who really, really struggle. And you've got a pretty damn good offense in Washington. And you've got, we'll call it an NFL offense in Carolina, which they certainly were not before with Bryce Young at the controls. And that's kind of the magic formula for me, right? When I'm looking at games and I'm looking at who I want to start, give me a matchup between 2 shitty defenses.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of like the golden ticket. I'm going to run his ass out there with all the confidence in the world. I picked him up in a league where I've got Dak on bye. No sweat. No sweat. I'm a happy camper.
Yeah. And the defense there for Washington has played a bit better the last couple weeks. They've allowed just the 7th fewest fantasy points per game to wide receivers over the last 2 weeks. So they have been getting a little bit better, but I still love it. It's a great matchup. I would run them out there for sure. It's solid.
It sure is. And so now it's kind of funny, right? When you've got a team with a real alpha number 1 receiver, but you've got a number 2 receiver on the team who's damn good in his own right and would be the number 1 on probably 23 other teams, or at least damn close to it. How you feeling about T. Higgins this week?
I love it. He missed the first 2 weeks of the season because of that hamstring injury. And he's only eclipsed 15 fantasy points in PPR in once in the 4 games that he's played. He's currently wide receiver 34 on the year. He's averaging 15.7 PPR points each week, but just 7 yards per target, with his only 2 touchdowns coming during that shootout there a couple weeks ago in Baltimore. Or against Baltimore. I can't remember where the hell the game was, but some nice underlying figures for Higgins. Among those 144 qualified receivers, he ranks 13th in receiving EPA. Among the wide receivers with 30-plus targets, he's tied for 6th with the best PFF grade, tied with his teammate, Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson. That's some damn good company right there. He's got a 95.1 route participation rate. That's the 13th best. And his role and his quarterback have really been steadily improving. As we've made it here the last few weeks. The Bengals have historically struggled through the first few weeks and in each of the last few seasons. Yet Joe Burrow has the 6th most passing yards and is tied for 2nd in passing touchdowns in the league. The offense there is solid. In the past 3 games, Higgins has also outpaced Jamar Chase in targets from 31 to 24, and twice as many first read targets this past week. Higgins had 6. Jamar only had 3 on those first reads from Burrow. Higgins is also seeing 9.7 air yards per target compared to Chase's 8.7. And Higgins also is leading targets inside the red zone with 6, despite missing the first 2 weeks. The statistics show that Higgins is being involved more often and in a very meaningful fantasy way. The matchup's great against the Browns. They allow the 10th most points to wide receivers. They're giving up 34.6 points per game. They've allowed 6 receiving touchdowns to wide receivers, averaging about 1 a game. And his upcoming schedule is pretty favorable with Philly, Las Vegas, Baltimore, and the Chargers coming up next. Those secondaries are very good. Start T. Higgins definitely this week. I love him. I'm hoping to use him in DFS if I can.
Oh, look at you tipping your hand.
Yeah, psychological games.
I don't fall for that shit though. not even a little. So we got Nahal in the chat. Bills or Broncos defense. He's worried about the Broncos defense without Pat Surtain. That's certainly a very valid concern.
What do you got to worry about though on the Saints? Kamara. That's it. Everyone else is hurt.
That's about it. The Bills have an absolutely excellent matchup as well, going against the Titans and Will Levis, who is really not looking like an NFL quarterback. I think on this one, I'm going to go with the Bills. I think the Broncos do have a good matchup, and Spencer Rattler, while you look at the box score, the numbers looked okay. There's definitely some concern there about him not getting through his progressions and not seeing everything. But that Will Levis is just bad. Yeah. He's just bad. Like that offense is in really rough shape.
It is.
I think that's going to be my lean.
Let's see.
And then we follows up. Do you know how their run defense is? The Broncos, pretty damn good. It's pretty damn good this year.
Where the hell are they? Why can I not find them? Oh my God, this is driving me nuts.
You on a struggle bus there, buddy?
Yeah, trying to find Denver.
You should get some glasses.
Yeah, they've only given up, 550 on the ground so far this year. That's pretty good. That's one of the lower ones. high
It
40s,
is.
low 50s, but yeah, they're pretty tough.
Yeah, and the Bills have struggled against the run, but maybe Tony Pollard gets his, but I just don't see a whole lot of points being scored in that game.
Yeah. Speaking of Tony Pollard, he's been damn solid for fantasy this year, scoring 15 plus points in 4 of his first 5 games. And he's in a great position to succeed again this week. Faces the Bills defense that allows the second most points to opposing running backs. What do you think, Matt?
Well, Tony Pollard is the RB19 in total points and points per game on the season. 3 of his 5 games, he's gone over 17 points in a PPR. 4 of 5, he's gone over 15. He's not the most efficient back around, but he's still having a solid season. He's got 78 carries for 339 and 3 touchdowns. He's also got 16 grabs for 82 yards. And he's somebody I don't want to say dominating the backfield, but he is leading the backfield. He's played at least 60% of snaps every game this season. And last week, he actually played 74% of snaps. He also has 13 of the 16 red zone touches among running backs there on the team. He's just 18th in the league with that 339 rushing yards, but he's 4th in yards after contact with 352. Why don't we let that one just sink in for a minute there? Mm-hmm. It's kind of obvious by that stat line. The Titans don't have the greatest run blocking line, but you couldn't really ask for a better matchup this week than against the Bills. The Bills allow the second most points per game to running backs. Their 5.3 yards per carry allowed is the worst in the league, and they've given up 8 rushes of 20 or more yards. 4 running backs have scored at least 21 points against them. Tajay Spears, I really have a hard time imagining him playing this week, and that's going to give Tony a great shot at 20-plus touches. This is one of the lower totals on the board this week, though. Keep that in mind. And Pollard's play has really got to be the lone bright spot for this offense so far, if you can call it that. I think at the end of the day, he's going to end up as a top 8 option at the position. Could be a little bit higher depending on whether or not he finds the end zone. But you know that Will Levis and that passing attack aren't really going to do much to help him out. So we do want to keep game script in mind that if, the Titans get down a couple touchdowns early, that could negate some of his production. Yeah, he can catch a little bit out of the backfield, but I think all in all, he's going to be able to do enough, especially early in the game, to make him just a rock solid option at the position this week.
Yeah, I think he's a must start in PPR formats. I think for sure. I think he will see passes. Buffalo keeps giving up too much. Let's see. Nahal's back. Opponent has Jordan Mason. Should I snipe Garendo? I'm fine with dropping Wicks as he's week to week. Do you think he'll play this week? Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Play some defense.
I think Mason, really, it's going to come down. It's going to be a pain tolerance thing with him. I think it's smart to pick up Garendo, if for nothing more than to keep him away from your opponent. Yeah. And even if Mason plays, considering the nature of his injury and just the pain involved, I think there's a pretty good chance we're looking at a split backfield, at least for this week. And that matchup against Kansas City is pretty damn brutal.
Right. So follow-up question, Ty Chandler instead?
No, I'm going to go with Garendo on this one. I mean, yeah, there's a chance that Aaron Jones misses the game, but Detroit's run defense is pretty damn good, and they're going to be good even without Aiden Hutchinson. No, yeah. Ty Chandler does present some upside in the passing game, but if you don't need to start either one of these two, I'm going to play keep away from my opponent.
Right. Loud boy, best trade, Devontae Adams or Amari Cooper? I don't know if it's tough. God, I hate Aaron Rodgers. Love Devontae Adams, though. I think Buffalo was definitely hurting for a number 1 receiver. The Jets kind of already had a number 1 receiver there in Garrett Wilson. I really think the best trade was Cooper to the Bills.
Yeah, I think from a team context, you're right. I think from strictly a fantasy standpoint, Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams have amazing chemistry.
Mhm.
And if you're an Adams manager who's kind of been suffering through this season, you're looking at possibly a top 5 wide receiver the rest of the way.
Yeah, could be good. Good stuff. I was reading on Reddit and the fantasy football sub just yesterday about, somebody that traded Devontae Adams away and didn't want him. And then hours later it came out and they wanted to renege on the trade. Sorry.
Well, shit happens. You made your bed.
Too bad.
So we talked about the Carolina Panthers side of this game coming up on Sunday, but now we're going to talk about the Commies side, specifically running backs. You got Brian Robinson and or Austin Ekeler, both of which are fantastic options this week, and Kyle's going to tell us why.
Carolina allows the most points to running backs. I mean, that's what it is. And I think it's going to be, I think it'll be more of a positive game script. I got Washington winning this game, and I think they're going to run the hell out of the ball. Brian Robinson has been hurt. He missed last week. He was limited today. So that's why I wanted to throw Ekeler on there too, just in case. So definitely keep tabs on Brian Robinson, that final injury report tomorrow. But a strong option this week. Ekeler didn't look that great filling in for Robinson. He only rushed 9 times for like 20 yards. So I'm hoping B-Rob is playing because I feel much more comfortable starting Brian Robinson than Ekeler if he's hurt. The defense I mentioned for Carolina surrendered the most fantasy points to running backs, and 4 of them have beaten 4 running backs have scored 16 or more points on them. They've allowed 12 rushing touchdowns to running backs, over 800 yards, 22 red zone touches, and 13 goal-to-go situations. All of those figures, most in the league. Crazy. And Robinson's been pretty outstanding this week. He finished as a top 24 back in PPR in every game he's appeared in this season. He's really a set it and forget it guy. Personally, I think he is. He's currently the RB 17 on the year, averaging 15.5 PPR points per game. Among the 56 qualified rushers in the NFL, 5 TDs he's got. He's tied for 5th in the league, 11th in rush yards over expected, 12th in rush EPA, 16th in yards after contact per carry at 3.6. I love that. He's 21st in overall rush yards. He's at 3.25. 24th in yards per carry at 4.5, and he hasn't fumbled the ball. Takes care of the damn ball. Never been a huge fumbler. He had a few last year, lost a couple, but I love that he's through 5 games. He's held on to the rock. Washington is tied with Tampa Bay for the second highest scoring offense in the NFL. So I think Brian Robinson should get plenty of goal line work and plenty of red zone touches for the rest of the year as long as he's healthy. If he's 100% this week, this matchup is a smash spot. High volume RB2 if active this week.
Think so. We got Smitty in the chat. Are we starting Javonte Williams tonight?
I haven't heard that name in so long.
It's been a minute. It's been a minute.
Is this game in New Orleans?
I believe so. Looking in the wrong damn spot.
Statistically, they are always so much tougher in rush defense at home. I don't have the figures on me anymore. Just trust me. They're tough at home. They are.
Just trust me.
Yep. Just trust me. Many people are saying it.
Yeah, it's in New Orleans. New Orleans has really struggled against running backs this year. They're bottom 10 in points allowed.
Yep.
And I think the run game is going to be key to help keep pressure off of Bo Nix tonight. We do have the aspect of the Sean Payton revenge game. I think if you need to start him, I'm looking at him as a flex option. And maybe he's got RB2 upside if he finds the end zone.
Heck yeah. So yeah, he follows it up. Javonte, Mostert, Mason, Algier, or Gibson. Start Dose.
All right. Gibson is out for me. He's just nothing. I'll start Javonte, and then it comes down to Mostert or Mason for me. If Jordan Mason is playing and they come out and say he's a full go, I'm going to run him out there. It is a tough matchup, and I fully acknowledge that. Raheem Mostert does have a pretty solid matchup, but that offense has just looked like shit ever since Tua went down. But I also understand, like, hey, if you want to start a running back against the Colts, I get it. Devon Achan
Yeah.
should be back this week. And as I talk through this now, I think I've, changed my own mind. I'm going to go with Javonte and Mostert here.
Okay. I'll agree. Because I don't have a thought right now in my brain. I'm discombobulated here. Good luck, Smitty. So yeah, Kelsey mentioned earlier in her, she was starting. Hold on, no, I don't remember. Godwin and Neighbors, and had St. Brown on the bench, and the projections are lower for St. Brown in her league. So hypotheticals, well, not totally hypothetical. You got two spots. You got to start three receivers: Godwin, Neighbors, and St. Brown. Who would you start? Neighbors, while he can clear the concussion protocol, showed up on today's injury report with a groin injury.
Yep.
So you definitely want to watch that, Kelsey. God, I think the way that Detroit's going to win is going to be through the air against Minnesota. I think we've talked about that yesterday. Me and you did, not on here, but just on a phone call. What do you think?
Godwin is a for sure for me. Right.
I agree with that. It is definitely between Neighbors and St. Brown.
So it's between Neighbors and St. Brown. You've got Neighbors going up against the Eagles, but they get them at home. That Eagles pass defense does not scare me. And Neighbors is getting the target volume.
Sure.
Right. I mean, over the last 3 weeks that he played, I mean, he averaged something like 12 targets a week. It's just ridiculous. Sun God, he's not given the results that, quite frankly, anyone looked for coming into the season. It is frustrating. I do think you're right that the way to beat that Vikings defense is going to be through the air. I think that Lions and Vikings game has a better chance to shoot out than that Giants Eagles game. And now we've been talking about this all for nothing because she's starting all three.
Oh, okay then. All right. Well, again, make sure you check out Neighbors. Groin injuries are sometimes tough.
Yes. We got Smitty again. Tank Dell or Addison if Evans doesn't play. That's a good one.
Yeah, I'm leaning towards Addison. Again, shootout. Detroit's weakness is their secondary, even though they're much improved from last year. But I guess Houston Green Bay could be pretty high scoring as well.
Yes, it could. At the same time, if I'm going to pick on a secondary, it's going to be Detroit's.
Yeah. Yep.
So I'm going to go with Addison there, but that is a very tough call. In that situation, I don't necessarily think there is a wrong answer. I think both of them have a fantastic chance to have one hell of a game. They are going to be the wide receiver 2 on their team for this week, but that doesn't really mean shit.
Right. Agreed.
All right. Hold on.
No,
Kelsey's screwing with us. No,
yeah.
She wishes she could. She can only play 2. So St. Brown from both of you. This is a game Detroit has to have because if they lose, they're 2 games back and the Vikings are going to have a game in hand.
And so St. Brown's going to see a lot of them. Yeah, Laporta might too, but it's going to be a lot of quick, short passes. That pass rush there for Minnesota is damn good. Dubo, for sure. They're amazing. And Goff's going to have to get the ball out quick, and that just screams ARSB to me.
Yeah. So, yeah, Kels, I would go with Godwin and Amon-Ra St. Brown. The groin injuries are scary because, he's going to play. One wrong twist, and he's done.
Yeah, for sure. So that is, what up? Guess who's joining us? Buff. Hello, man.
What's going
Buff
on,
is
brother?
the one of the creators of our intro there, which we love. So thanks again for that, brother. So that was the 5 starts. Now we got 5 guys we recommend you probably should sit, or definitely, if you have to go with them, definitely temper your expectations, right? First guy is a running back. Love him. David Montgomery has been an absolute beast this year, finding the end zone in every game while scoring at least 15 fantasy points in each game. But maybe some possible regression coming this week versus an extremely tough Vikings defense. Matt, tell us more about Monty.
Yeah, and look, I'm not going to advocate benching a top 10 running back, right? I mean, that would just be foolish. But I do think he's going to be closer, instead of that, RB8, RB9, RB10, maybe it's RB17, RB18, something like that. So, closer to a mid to low end running back 2 play. On the year, he's toted the ball 75 times for 351 yards. He scored 6 touchdowns. He's caught all 10 of his targets for 94 yards as well. And this dude scored a touchdown in 8 straight games going back to last season. And so far this year, he scored 15 points in every game. Among running backs with 70 or more carries, his 4.7 yard per carry average is 6th. His 5.4 rush EPA is also 9th among all qualified running backs. He also ranks in the top 15 in yards after contact, and he's 4th at the position with 8 broken tackles. But the Vikings have been insane against the run. They are the number 2 defense against running backs, allowing a little over 15 points per game to the position. Their 3.6 yard per carry allowed is the second fewest, and their 336 total rushing yards is the fewest. But you want to remember they had a bye, and they've allowed exactly 1 rushing touchdown. No big plays either, just 1 rush over 20 yards. But now, we're going to give you a little bit of context behind those numbers. Just 1 running back this season has more than 10 rush attempts against this defense. Jordan Mason, who ran the ball 20 times for 100 yards. The Vikings have run more than half of their plays this season with a 9-point lead or greater. So they're not giving up a lot of rushing yards, but also game script is going into that a lot. If you're down 9-10 points, chances are you're not going to be running a whole hell of a lot. If I were to play a Lions running back, it would be Jahmyr Gibbs, but even then, I'm tempering expectations as well. You said it just a minute ago when we were talking with Kelsey about Amon-Ra St. Brown or Malik Neighbors. The way to beat this defense is going to be through the air, through the quick passing game. Jared Goff has been fantastic when blitzed. I mean, just amazing. And we know that's something that Brian Flores loves to do. And he gets very creative with those blitzes and bringing pressure from areas you don't typically expect, especially given down and distance and situation. Again, you're not going to bench David Montgomery. Maybe he finds the end zone and gets you, 12 points. All right. If you get that, be happy with it. But I'm not expecting a blow-up game by any stretch from him. This game has the second highest total on the board at 50.5, or at least it did earlier the last time I looked. And this one I'm really kind of undecided on because I can certainly see an outcome where it goes over that total and this game is played in the 60s. And I can also see an outcome where it's 21-17.
Yep.
We're talking about 2 teams that are in the top 10 in both offense and defense. Now, granted, Detroit has a massive hole on their defense now that is going to be impossible to fill. So it's going to be next man up, everybody hustling, everybody doing their job while Brad Holmes does his thing and figures out a way to maybe get us 75 to 80% of what Hutch was providing. But for this week, I'm downgrading Monty. Big time.
Definitely. Hate to say it, but it's going to be a tough game for him.
It certainly is. Another running back we're downgrading is on a team I think Kyle and I and Dubo and Loud Boy can all agree that can just fuck right off. And that's the Packers and specifically Josh Jacobs.
So, yeah, Josh Jacobs, isn't putting up terrible numbers this year, but hasn't really met my expectations, many people's expectations, I'm sure. RB21 on the year, averaging just under 12 PPR points per game, 4 of 6 game, 11 points or less. That just doesn't cut it. And just the 1 rushing touchdown and a shitty-ish 4.3 yards per carry. He's got the 3rd worst rush EPA among all rushers. Does have some good. He is highly graded on PFF, 7th best rush grade there out of the 57 running backs with 30 plus carries. He's 3rd with 353 yards after contact and ranks 18th with 3.27 yards after contact per attempt, and tied for 9th with 18 missed forced tackles. No one ever told Josh Jacobs he couldn't break a tackle. He is solid in that regard. He also has a top 20 PFF receiving grade. He's seen 13 targets this year, caught 11 of them for just over 100 yards, and he has seen the 15th most receiving snaps among running backs. So lots of ways for Josh Jacobs to beat you or help you in fantasy, I should say. He's also carried the 3rd most in the league, 108 times. So volume right now is really essentially the only thing that is really contributing to his value. But how long will that last? Packers have increased the usage of their other running back, Emmanuel Wilson, lately. He's got 33 carries over his last 4 contests. Maybe they start leaning heavier on him because he's averaging 5 yards an attempt. And while the Houston Astros, while the Houston Texans, their opponent this week, have been good at limiting opposing wide receivers, they've been tremendous at limiting opposing running backs. It's a tough matchup for Jacobs. Texans have allowed the 5th fewest fantasy points to running backs, just 3.8 yards per carry, and the 8th fewest rushing yards per game to the position. And just 3 touchdowns allowed as well, 2 rushing, 1 receiving. If you have viable alternatives on your roster, this is a great week to trot him out. Barring a touchdown, I just don't think he's worth starting this week.
Yeah, I've got to start him in a league because I have to, but I'm definitely tempering expectations.
Sure.
We got a couple questions here in the chat. Kyle must have missed one. We got Dynasty is my life. Is he crazy for thinking about starting Bub Means over Mandrews? It's a 12-team half-point tight end premium there. I don't think you're crazy. Just with all of the issues and injuries that receiving core is dealing with in New Orleans right now.
He's it.
I mean, he should be one of, if not the primary target there this week. Andrews, I understand the temptation having that tight end premium, but they've got 3 tight ends that they're throwing the ball there to in Baltimore. You never really know who it's going to be. Now it's mainly likely in Andrews, but they've got that other jabroni there that somehow finds a way to come in and steal targets and receptions. This is an instance where I'm just going to go with the volume, or at least the expected volume, and go with Bub Means.
Yep. Agreed. For sure. Ice Cold OG Jones got a question. Welcome to the show. Looking for some tight end help. Freiermuth, Parkinson, Otten, or Conklin? We'll do one question at a time. I think I really like Otten this week, but
especially if Evans is out.
That's true. That's huge. That's a good call. Freiermuth, I worry about I don't know, the QB change. I'm kind of like blah.
It is, but Russell Wilson has shown in the past that he'll support good tight end play. Parkinson he's all right. I get it. Conklin is going to be a no-go for me.
Just got pushed down the pecking order.
His stock is way down. Colts defense, absolutely not. Chargers defense, I'll entertain the thought there. They got Arizona, and Arizona has really underperformed expectations this year. And I also like their upcoming schedule over the next 3 or 4 weeks. The Rams defense, absolutely not. I wouldn't trust them to go out there and shut down a high school football team, let alone an NFL offense.
I was still on the tight ends. Who'd we go with? Yeah, I'm like, let's do one question at a time, and you just merged.
Yeah, well, that's how I roll.
Yeah, I like Otten this week personally. Ice cold.
Yeah, I'll go with Otten as well, and the Chargers defense.
Agreed. Yeah, Rams Colts, not very good at all. Let's see. Himothy says Mason Tipton's better than Bub. Trust him. Sounds like something I just said a while ago. Dynasty 6-0, so not a must. Every week's a must-win week, bro. Every week's a must. You want to go undefeated, but I like the call with Bub. I don't think you can go wrong there. He's going to see the most targets on the New Orleans Saints. Period. Jesse's in the chat. Welcome to the show again, guys. Here every Tuesday, Thursday, 7 p.m. Eastern, and on Sundays at 12 noon Eastern. Who should I start between these two guys? London, Juju, Dell, Marvin Harrison Jr. I'm going to go with Devonta Smith.
All right.
Is the Smith.
Yeah. So Marvin Harrison still hasn't cleared concussion protocol.
No.
Juju is dealing with a hamstring injury. So we don't know where things stand with him. I like Drake London going up against Seattle at home. Tank Dell has a chance to really be a key part of a game that should see plenty of points scored there in that Texans-Packers game. Devonta Smith going up against that Giants defense. Yes, please. I think those are the three I'm going to go with. Now, if Juju gets a clear bill of health going into Sunday, make sure you're paying attention to inactives. Well, I mean, that's a 4:00 game, so you're going to have to make
check us out
decision.
12 noon Eastern on Sunday. Well, we'll have all the inactives for you.
Yes.
Well, I guess we won't have the late slate, but yeah, you get it.
Right. Yeah, it'll come down to Dell and Juju for me.
Yeah.
As it stands right now, I'm going to go with Dell and play it safe. So yeah, London, Dell, and Devonta Smith.
Excellent. I agree. But yeah, I'm if Juju's playing, I'm gonna insert him in there for sure. Himothy. Okay, why is this thing not coming off? Himothy. Laporta's been kind of poo-poo for me. Does Otten get the start? I like Laporta in this game. I think they're going to have to throw, as we mentioned before. I still like Laporta over Otten. You?
Yeah. God, that I can't believe I'm saying it because that is a tough decision.
It is. Tampa Bay's offense is damn good. Baker Mayfield slinging touchdowns all over the fucking gridiron.
They are. And look, we knew coming into the season, Laporta was pretty, we'll call it touchdown dependent last year. I mean, he had 800-900 yards, but he scored 10 touchdowns. And we knew there was going to be a regression there. I just didn't think it was going to be regression to this degree. I mean, it's been ridiculous. That said, like, we're also at the point in the season where I don't give two shits where you drafted somebody. Like, that is no longer relevant.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to go with that in here. I really am. Dude, Laporta has done nothing. Absolutely nothing.
I get it. Just, yeah. Last week got that touchdown on that long 50-yard pass there, but
it was his only target.
Yep, it was only one.
Yep. He's not getting the target volume, and a lot of it has to do with the emergence of Jameson Williams.
Yep. And Tim Patrick to a point.
Yeah.
He's been solid.
He has. And good for him. He's dealt with injuries over the past couple of years, and Detroit was really in need of a consistent third wide receiver.
Bisco, welcome back to the show, man. Start 2 wide receivers in a full PPR. Downs, Cooper, McConkey, Pickens, and Meyer. Nico and CD on the bench this week, of course. Amari, I just don't know what his role is going to be there already in Buffalo. I think he's a definite cut. So is McConkey for me as well. Oh, Jesus.
Somebody's scraping the bottom of the barrel.
Yeah, that sucks.
Let me say that again. The bottom of the barrel, not the bottom of the barrel. Downs is a no-go right off the bat.
It's like Pickens is, we're about to talk about him here in a minute. I don't love that matchup either.
No, and you're going to have Anthony Richardson back. Josh Downs works close to the line of scrimmage, but Richardson's going to throw the ball 80 miles an hour at his feet 5 yards away.
Yeah. Because
he's just that bad. I'm going to assume you mean Jacoby Myers. If he plays, I think I would choose him and probably McConkey.
Yeah. I'm more Downs and Meyer than McConkey, but what has Ladd been doing?
I think he's been leading the team in targets.
8 targets last week, 7 the week before. He's also limited this week as well with a hip injury. Definitely check that out as well. That's a tough one there. Ugh. Gross. All right. Moving on. Oh, wait. Maybe we got more questions. Hold on. We do. Hold on. Steven, welcome to the show. Are you starting Packers, Chargers, Saints, or Jags?
Chargers for me.
Yep. I agree. Jags can't stop a thing. Saints, that's rough there.
Yeah, the Jags should never even be a consideration, Steven.
Nope. Yeah, I fully expect Doug Peterson to get fired on the flight back home Monday or Sunday.
They're going to make his ass walk back from London.
They might. Himothy, I asked earlier, but I messed up my spelling. Love versus Hurts this week. Giants.
I see that thinking look on your face.
I mean, the matchup's good with against the Giants for Hurts. I really love the game for a fantasy aspect. Houston and Green Bay. I think there'll be some points scored there. I really love the rushing upside for Hurts, even though he hasn't really been as great at that this year. I'm leaning Love.
I'm going to go with Hurts for the rushing upside.
Okay.
That Giants defense is really no good. I understand that you've got, the Packers at home going up against the Texans, and the Packers are going to be without their full complement of receivers. Hurts, it's looking like there's a damn good chance that Dallas Goedert isn't going to play. But if you've got Devonta Smith and A.J. Brown, along with Saquon Barkley, who is a very capable receiver out of the backfield, I think that's going to be plenty to win that game going against the Giants. Yeah, I'm going to go with Hurts. Give me the rushing upside. Rushing quarterbacks are a cheat code.
For sure. All right, so we
got Kelsey out here talking all this shit. Her mouth is writing checks. There ain't no way my ass is going to cash.
Pound of Velveeta. Oh, poor Maddie.
All right. Bisco back.
Oh.
Hockenson or Goddard for a backup tight end. He's got Engram as his main tight end. That's a tough one because we don't even know that Hawkinson's going to play this week. And I kind of get the vibe that he's not, that it's more likely he comes back next week. Goddard.
Yeah, grab him. Grab Hawk. He's still technically, if you got an IR spot, he won't hurt you there. You could put him on IR until he, I don't think
Engram is also dealing with a hamstring now. So dude, this shit is a wasteland. The entire NFL, everybody's fucking hurt. All their backups suck. And it's just, it's shitty. It is what it is. And Bisco gives us the context for the rest of the season. Definitely Hockenson.
Yeah, definitely.
I think
the offense there is so good.
He's got Pacheco and Nico on the IR. Join the club. Nico is still the wide receiver 3.
Mm-hmm.
Let that sink in. He played like a quarter, or he missed 3/4 of one game, and then he missed the next game, and he's still the wide receiver 3. That dude was on fire. He's going to be back soon now.
I know. I need him back. I need
just
him back
a couple
in
weeks.
I need him back in my home league for sure. All right. There's several reasons to stay away from George Pickens this week. His snap share has decreased the last couple weeks. There's a change at QB1 in Pittsburgh. And this week, Pickens faces
the goddamn Jets.
You got to bench him, right?
I am.
Yeah.
I've got him in a league and I'm sitting his ass on the bench. Now, not exactly reinventing the wheel with this pick, right?
No.
He has yet to have a 10-point game in PPR this season. His best weekly finish is 25th. So he's not been, lighting the world on fire. Starting QB kind of up in the air. It's looking like it's going to be Russ, but still, I don't give a shit. On the year, he's got 44 targets, 26 grabs for 363. Hasn't found the end zone. Looking at a career low 14 yards per reception. However, at wide receiver, he's third in team target share, 28.9%. But how good have them targets been? Not very good. Among wide receivers with 40 or more targets, his 22.7% deep target rate ranks third. Too bad he's going up against the best pair of cornerbacks in the league, though. According to PFF, whatever your opinions are on them, the Jets are the third best team in coverage. And quite frankly, we don't need PFF to tell us that. We know that DJ Reed and Sauce Gardner are the shit. DJ Reed, though,
he's probably going to be out.
Is he really?
Yeah, groin.
God damn it. Well, let me just skip this bullet point. I didn't
So
see
Pickens,
that.
Pickens is going to see full Sauce Gardner the whole game.
Sure. But between Sauce and DJ Reed, they've allowed a grand total of 248 yards and 1 touchdown in their coverage, which is just ridiculous.
That's outstanding.
As a team, the Jets allow the 4th fewest points to wide receivers at just under 25 a game. They're also top 5 in red zone points allowed at just 2.5 points per game. In terms of raw numbers, we're talking 16 targets, 8 grabs for 104 yards and a half a touchdown. And quite frankly, I already didn't have a whole lot of confidence in this passing offense, even though, look, credit where it's due. Justin Fields has looked better in terms of his accuracy this year than he has in years past. But he said it himself, he's not played well enough to hold on to that starting job. And they're going to bring in the corpse of Russell Wilson to see what happens there. Look, George Pickens is a supremely talented player. He gets good separation. He gets down the field. They're not getting him the ball the way that he needs to be successful. At the same time, I think he's a low-end wide receiver 4 this week, and I would not be shocked at all if he finished outside the top 50 at the position.
Yeah.
I think he's been a disappointment, quite frankly, especially with the way he ended last year and fucked several people, myself included, in the fantasy playoffs. We were thinking, hey, all right, Cat's turned a corner. He's going to start doing some shit. Well, the shit he's been doing, no bueno.
Yeah.
Sit his ass on the bench.
I definitely would. Question in the chat. Alec, welcome back to the show. Love the Max Crosby pick. God, I love Max.
He needs to be a Lion.
I wish he would. He went to Eastern. He's from Lapeer, Michigan, I believe. I think it's Lapeer, somewhere right around there. But should he trade Brandon Aiyuk and Ekeler for Bigsby and Nico Collins?
That's a good one. So we saw last week with Travis Etienne out, Tank Bigsby's role did not change. They brought in Dearness Johnson to handle the work that Travis Etienne had. Nico Collins, he's still going to be out for a couple more weeks, but Brandon Aiyuk has not really given you anything, especially compared to what you were expecting coming into the season and the way he performed last year. But we also knew there was going to be some risks there because his success was based on efficiency. It's not like he's getting 160 targets.
Yep.
He was used further down the field, and for whatever reason, he and Brock Purdy are just not clicking the same way this year that they did last year.
Yep.
Austin Ekeler, a nice little surprise, a nice little bounce back campaign from him. And that's a pretty good offense. I think I'm going to take the Tank and Collins side of this and just kind of bite the bullet for the next couple of weeks, waiting for Nico to come back.
Yep. I agree. That's definitely what I was going to do. Spubsy, am I crazy to go with Bub Means tonight over Xavier Legette? I don't think that's crazy at all.
I don't think it's crazy, although it might end up being a decision that you regret if Deontay Johnson does not play.
Yeah.
I have a feeling, for the several years he was in Pittsburgh, it wasn't at all uncommon for him to not really practice through the week and still end up playing on Sunday. Obviously, you've got to make this decision here in the next 20 minutes as opposed to waiting for inactives on Sunday. I don't think it's crazy at all. I think if Deontay Johnson, Legette isn't really going to do a whole hell of a lot anyway. And Bub Means, despite what Himothy thinks, Kyle and I are kind of in agreement that he's likely going to be the wide receiver 1 for the Saints this week.
Yep. Gotta be. Himothy, was Debo in the start or sit? If not, which one? I think he's definitely a start this week. Probably the only receiver I'd be starting for San Francisco against the Chiefs. I think Debo's what's the word I'm looking for? He's
good.
Defense proof, whatever you want to say. Bad matchups don't really matter. You start Debo every fucking week.
Yeah, that's true. And it's really how he's deployed.
Yep.
That makes him so effective because they'll put him outside. They'll put him in the slot. They'll put him in the backfield. They use him in motion. They'll use him in orbit motion. They'll get him the ball on jet sweeps. He's so versatile that it's not like Kansas City's just going to lock one dude down on him and just call it a day.
Gotcha. Chris Bird, welcome to the show. Would you trade ARSB for Chase Brown and Puka? His running backs are Henry, Rashad, White, Hunt, Mason. Wide receivers are Godwin, Juju, and Sutton. I don't ever want to trade Amon-Ra St. Brown. Not in that offense. You want great players and great offenses. He definitely qualifies for that. What do you think?
I'm not going to do it because we don't know when Puka is going to be back.
This is true. Yeah.
Quite frankly. I mean, he might not be back for another 6 weeks. I've not really heard a whole lot on him. I'm going to hold on to the Sun God. I get the appeal because, look, Puka was a first-round pick. Chase Brown is really starting to emerge because of Zach Moss's suckiness. I understand you're looking at your backfield and you got Derrick Henry, who's doing great. Rashad White is looking like now he's going to be part of a three-headed monster backfield. And the coach just come out today and said they're going to ride the hot hand, which is something nobody wants to hear ever. Jordan Mason is somebody with an expiration date in theory, and it could be here in just a few weeks. And Kareem Hunt, possibly the same thing, depending on when Isaiah Pacheco comes back.
Yeah,
I get it. Yeah, that and like Godwin and Juju are pretty good in theory. Cortland Sutton is not really somebody I'm going to trust. I'm going to be very, very happy to roll Godwin, Juju, and Sun God out there every week.
Yep, agreed. Yeah, I'm a homer. Gotta love me some ARSB.
So we just got asked about Brandon Aiyuk and whether or not he is a go, no go for this week. We think maybe you should sit his ass down, and Kyle's going to tell you why.
So heading into week 7, George Pickens of the Steelers has more receiving yards without a touchdown grab than Brandon Aiyuk. They each don't have touchdowns. It's crazy. I hate to be that guy, but Lions quarterback Jared Goff has more receiving touchdowns than Pickens or Aiyuk combined. In 6 contests, Aiyuk has only hit double-digit fantasy production once. Last season, he failed to record 10 plus fantasy points just 4 times. He hasn't topped 48 receiving yards or 5 receptions, except in that week 5 explosion versus the Cardinals. He's averaged more targets per game this year, not by much, 6.8 to 6.6. However, as Matt had mentioned a moment ago, his efficiency has just fallen off a cliff. He was averaging a whopping 3.27 yards per route run last year and 0.52 fantasy points per route run last year. This year, he's down to 1.85 yards per route run and just quarter fantasy point per route run. Part of the reason I think for these early season struggles can be directly tied to his holdout. He just didn't, get started with what he had to do and take care of, and he's behind the ball. He also seemed to be a lot more like his first read target share last year was over 27%. So far this year, it's down to 22%. Again, I think that's related to that holdout and that late start for him. Ranks among the wide receivers in the NFL. He's 22nd in receiving yards. He's 25th in targets with 41, but he's only caught 23 of them. His catch rate at 56.1% ranks 137 out of 144 qualified receivers. That's ugly. It sucks. He's 18th in yards per reception, 25th in receiving APA. And this week's opponent is the Kansas City Chiefs, a Super Bowl rematch, right? Kansas City has shut down opposing wide receivers despite losing their awesome cornerback, L'Jarius Sneed, to the Titans in the offseason. Kansas City's allowed the 7th fewest fantasy points per game to receivers this year. They allow an average of 1 touchdown per game to wide receivers. Hell, Jamar Chase was held to 5.5 points against the Chiefs, and that, I don't know, there was 60 points scored in that game, I think. Chiefs, Bengals. So 5.5 for Chase. I mean, that's pretty much the stat line I expect for Aiyuk this week. He'd have to bust a big one.
You really would. All right. Chat's popping off. We got questions. Timothy, with Rashid Shaheed out for the year, should he sell or sit on Olave, who's out this week with a concussion?
Derek Carr's going to be back. I keep him.
Yeah, I'm going to hold him too. He's not had the greatest season so far this year. that has more to do with Derek Carr than it does with Chris Olave. If you put Chris Olave on a team with Kirk Cousins at quarterback, I think you would get similar production to what we're seeing out of Drake London so far. Olave is a hell of a receiver.
He is.
And we got
Turgay, welcome to the show. Can you guys choose two for me for a flex? McBride, Addison, Mooney, and Pittman. I think Mooney's a definite. Would you agree?
Yes.
So that just leaves us the other three.
Yep. Trey McBride, Addison, Pittman. Pittman is not as affected by Anthony Richardson at quarterback as somebody like Josh Downs is. I'm typically pretty hesitant to start a tight end in the flex, but if you're wondering about McBride, you must have somebody like Kittle or Kelsey in your tight end slot, or maybe it's a league where you have, it's positionless. Here, draft 6 flex players, which has some appeal to it.
Sure.
Quite frankly. I'm going to go with Addison, though. Like that Detroit secondary, it's rough, man. Like that's my squad. I love my boys, but just no, they still struggle so damn much. And without Hutch being there to get pressure on the quarterback, I think Darnold's going to have more time to sit there in the pocket than he expected. Yeah. Addison is one hell of a wide receiver. And I know it almost seems counterintuitive to say, all right, I'm going to pick the 2 dudes who are the wide receiver 2 on their team, but that's what I'm going to do.
I'm going to totally agree with you. Totally agree with you. Love it. Good luck there, Turgay.
We got Bisco. Yeah, thoughts on Olave with Rashid out. We just kind of covered that. Spubsy's got one more. Should he drop Tajay Spears to stash Kendre Miller? Tajay has not really done a whole hell of a lot this season, and that's an offense that's really struggled. Tony Pollard has taken over that backfield. You know what? Why not? I'll go ahead and endorse it.
Agreed. Lex plants some trees. Singletary, Bucky, Ramondre, Pittman, or Means needs a running back and a flex in PPR. Singletary's
practicing, but he's been limited. Ramondre has not practiced at all this week yet.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to go with Bucky out of those 3. And then we've got Pittman, Means, Singletary for running back or for the flex spot in a PPR.
Tough, isn't it? Like you want to go Means. You're like, oh, maybe I should go Means here.
Yeah, just I can certainly see an outcome where Means just kind of gets peppered with targets. If he gets 10, 11 targets and brings in 8 of them,
who else?
I don't see that happening with Pittman.
Jawan Johnson. You think Jawan Johnson's going to get 8 or 9 targets?
I think Jawan Johnson could have a good game today.
He could. Yeah.
I'm going to go with Bucky and Means, and I'm kind of holding my nose with that one, but good luck to you, Lex.
Ice Cold's back. Someone dropped Likely. Should I pick him up and drop Komet? Yeah.
No, I'm not.
I'd keep
Komet. Look, we understand that it's a crowded wide receiver room there in Chicago, but Komet ain't really sharing time with anybody at the wide receiver at the tight end position. Isaiah Likely is.
Nice. All right. Good luck, everyone, with that. What do we got? 1 guy left? 2 guys left? 1 guy left.
Yes.
The NFL team in Tennessee has been Titans versus the tight end this year. Now, they haven't faced an elite one yet, but you better temper your expectations for Dalton Kincaid this week. Here's Matt to tell you more.
Well, Dalton Kincaid, he's a tight end 11 on the season, but he's got just 2 games over 5 PPR points and 1 top 10 finish at the position. That is not what we were banking on coming into the year. I know I was of the opinion that the pass offense was going to run through him. Apparently, I don't know what the hell I'm talking about, and I'm full of shit. On the season, he's got 31 targets. He's brought in 21 of them for 217 yards and 1 touchdown. In games that he's started, His targets per game are down from almost 7 per game last season to just over 5 this year. And going hand in hand with that, Josh Allen is attempting 8 fewer passes per game this season than last. However, he's still garnering a 20.7% target share, which is 4th among tight ends, but his 4 drops is also tied for the most. He's top 4 in both yards after the catch and yards after contact. These Titans, though, they allow 5.2 points per game to tight ends, fewest in the league. They allowed a season high 4 for 41 against Mo Alley Cox last week. I fully expect the Bills to win this game, and we're talking about a game with the second lowest total on the board. That Titans defense is really no longer a pass funnel like they've been the past couple of years. Still, at the same time, I'm looking at maybe a tight end 15 finish for Dalton Kincaid. And it really sucks because we all had high hopes for him. We're thinking, all right, he's kind of pushed aside Dawson Knox and he's going to take over the lead tight end role there with the Bills. But just that offense, ever since Joe Brady took over, they focus more and more on the run. And it's actually a good thing. Josh Allen is not throwing an interception this year, which, here we are on October 17th. If you would have told me that at the beginning of the season, I'd have called you a damn liar.
It'd be interesting to know if that was their plan going in. We're just going to run the ball a lot more, Josh, so you don't throw the ball to the other team.
Yeah, because that was a big problem for them. And look, outside the top, we'll call it 4 or 5 tight ends, it's a crapshoot. To me, there is no difference between the tight end 6 and the tight end 15. It just who gets lucky and falls in the end zone any given Sunday.
Absolutely. We'll take a few more questions here before we get out to add on to Timothy's question from earlier, because we were going Otten or Laporta, and we just mentioned about you thought that Juwan might have a pretty big game. So do you still think Otten?
I would start Juwan Johnson.
Okay. All right. Good luck, Timothy. Ice cold LG back. Purdy or Kyler Murray this week?
Ooh, that's a tough one. Like Kyler Murray, I know we were talking, it was either earlier this week or last week. It just seems like I've not really seen the improvement in him since he's come into the league. He's going up against a Chargers defense that, has played pretty well. Brock Purdy going up against the Chefs, in that Super Bowl rematch. That's a tough matchup there. He does have, as full a complement of weapons as he's had all season long. Obviously CMC is gone, but that's not news to anybody. Yeah. Look, they're sitting at 3-3 and they're tied with the Shithawks there for first in the division, but you've got the Rams lurking. I think this is a game that the 49ers need. I'm going to go with Purdy.
Excellent. I agree. Love it. Even though I like Kyler just hasn't quite looked like Kyler. He's not getting any better, I guess is where I'm going. It's just the same. Mostly the same. So, all right, we're going to get out of here. The game's going to start here momentarily.
Oh, wait, almost forgot.
What? Oh, yeah. Hold on.
Yeah.
Almost forgot again. Where is it? It's gone. Oh, there it is.
I wasn't talking about that. I was just going to say, we got merch available.
Oh.
We got the hat. We got the shirt. If you're interested, hit me up on X, either, the at there that Kyle has or mine, doesn't matter. I run them both. I'll get your information and we can get you squared away and we can go from there.
So we didn't go over the results from last week from the listener league there. I won, highest score. Gotta love it. Beat Ray's piss jug.
Well, congratulations, buddy. We got another question in the chat, though. Nobody gives a shit about your hollow victories. Mm-hmm. We got Mo Diesel. Start Juwan Johnson over Goddard or one of the Saints receivers over Charbonnet. I'm going to go with Juwan Johnson because we know he's playing. Yep. Quite frankly, we don't know what's going to be going on with Goddard. Charbonnet or one of the Saints receivers. I know you roster Charbonnet in a league, Kyle. What are your thoughts there?
He's on my bench. He's second fiddle to Ken Walker. Now I'm not starting him unless Ken Walker's hurt.
Yeah, Ken Walker has been pretty damn good.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with one of the Saints receivers. Bub Means has been a popular name today. We'll go with that. Just Charbonnet isn't going to get the work.
Yeah, For sure. All right, guys. We'll be back Sunday, 12 noon Eastern. We're going to get out of here. Everybody have a great night. Good luck in all your matchups and stay stoned.